What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you with another one. And this one is Game of Thrones Season 8, talking about Bran Stark and the Night's King versus the Night's King. What's going to go down, how that's going to happen. But before I get started, let me just say this real quick before I go over to the chat over here. Let me pull up my hit squad up in the chat. And let me just say this real quick. Earlier today, I was chilling. I was in Lady Wolverson's den. I was watching the stream, and she was with my man Pete Easy, my brother Pete Easy. And Pete Easy said the small council, back when the small council was a big thing. That's what he said, when the small council was a big thing. And lo and behold, boom! We are here because we are never when we are, and we are still a big thing. And joining me tonight, representing the small council, I have the one, the only, Charlie of Westeros.
Howdy, folks. Tony, every time you open your live streams, I always know it's going to be an epic introduction. So thank you. I always appreciate it. And I think we're going on almost, 2018? We're going on almost 5 years of Game of Thrones discussion with the small council. So, to 5 more years maybe?
Indeed.
Who knows?
Indeed, no doubt about it. And representing the Hype's Watch, this is my man 50 Grand, my brother from another mother, the Brooklyn Don. And he is here because he is the originator, the creator of Bran, the Time Traveler theory. And that's why we have him here, so we could talk about all that. The one, the only, Don Willi.
Valor Mogolis, everybody. Don Willi back again. And a round of applause to everyone who is here with us today. Tony, thank you very much for having me. And I am so glad. So let's get this thing started.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm happy to have you up here. Everybody chilling with us right now in the hit squad up in the chat, chilling with us. What up to my girl Nancy T? What up to Living My Rhapsody? What up to Jamie? What up to Lady Wolverson Den? What up to Reginald? What up to Jake Cruz? What up to Brenda Starr? What up to everybody out here is watching us? What up to Game of Theories with Marie? What up to everyone who came to chill? Talk a little Bran Stark with us. It's gonna be chilling. It's gonna be epic as always. You know what I mean? Thug Mug is in hand as always, so you know what that means. All right. So right off the bat, we know that in the end, it's gonna come down to Jon Snow, basically, and the Night's King, most likely in the physical battle. But Bran Stark does have a role to play. So we are going to try to talk about what type of role Bran could possibly play when dealing with the Night's King. So first, I think Bran does have a play to deal with the Night's King. Obviously, it said last season when Benjen sees him, he says you have to be ready for the Night's King. So I don't think there's any debate that Bran will have something to dealing with the Night's King. But what is that dealing? What will it be? Now, I'm going to go around the horn with this. Don Willi, I'll ask you real quick. Do you think that we will see some new powers from Bran Stark that we have not seen come up this season?
I think we have to. Listen, for basically most of season 7, we didn't really see him do anything. He said a couple of things here and there. He had a couple of visions, but he didn't do anything. And for the Three-Eyed Raven to be such a powerful character and Bran to now inhabit that role, we're going to have to see him do something very, very special because, while he can't do things physically, he's like Professor X, with the mental powers. He doesn't need Cerebro on his head to do all the stuff that he's doing though. So I'm imagining that he's gonna have to. They're gonna have to show something that is gonna be able to help stop the White Walkers and ultimately help Jon defeat the Night's King, because I don't think he's gonna be able to do it on his own just by pulling out his Valyrian sword. I think it's gonna have to be possibly a two-pronged assault.
No doubt, no doubt. Charlie, how do you feel about that? Will we see Bran Stark get some new powers that we have not seen him manifest yet in this upcoming season?
You know, I'm going to put it this way. I'm pessimistic-ish for the show. I'm more optimistic for the books in terms of seeing new powers. In terms of the show, I could maybe see. I don't want to call it new powers, but maybe new ways. Some of the powers we've already seen manifest themselves. And what I mean by that is in the way that Bran potentially can influence the past. I mean, we've seen in past seasons how, for example, at the Tower of Joy, when Bran watches Ned go up the steps, it almost seems like Ned heard or noticed Bran was there. It's not, very overt or very clear that that is the case, but I do wonder if, crackpot theory, if we see Bran go back to the past when the Night's King was created or when the Night's King was first defeated, if he has some capacity to influence things that happen in that setting. And in that sense, if they do go down that route, despite there only being 6 seasons, if that might not be a way he can manifest new powers. Now, obviously, there's other questions. Can Bran warg into a dragon? Can Bran warg into the Night's King? Is Bran the Night's King? Those are other questions that might indicate, assuming they come out to be true, might indicate, other ways Bran can use his powers or has new powers. But I'm more pessimistic about those ones and more inclined to think that maybe in the show we'll see him have an ability to influence the past in a more direct way rather than just witnessed events passively.
Nice. Now, if I think that if we're going to see anything new, I don't know if we're going to see any new powers from Bran. I think maybe if it's something like raising the dead or something like that, it's quite possible we could see that would be considered a new power. But besides what we have seen from Bran, I think what we see is probably what we're going to get. I don't know if he's going to, throw fireballs or shoot lightning or do anything like that. I don't know if he's going to have that ability. I just think it's really going to be the ability to search in the history and discover some type of situations that may help with the current situation that there is and stuff like that. What up to my man Mo Genie, my brother from another mother? Obviously, Mo, if you're good to go, just let me know. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. So, that's what I think quite possibly is going to happen with Bran and his new powers. But I'm very curious. Hopefully, we'll see. Hopefully, I would love to see him get something new. But I don't know if he's going to. What about Samwell Tarly tied to Bran Stark? We'll start with Charlie, because we started with Don Willi last time. What do you think, Sam and Bran? Is this the question and the answer? Is this what we're going to see next season?
Well, I'm assuming you're referring to the fact that they both played a role in discovering Jon Snow's true identity. I think, at least one of them's going to have that conversation with Jon and Daenerys, and I think maybe Sam would be the better person than Bran in the current state. Beyond that, I don't know in terms of those two characters if they conjointly have a role to play in events to come. It's a good question, though. I'm not really sure.
Don Willi?
Sorry, I was looking for the damn mute button. Basically, when it comes to that, yes, Sam has to play some kind of role. He has kind of become one of the exposition pieces, whenever we need kind of an info dump for certain things. So, obviously him taking books out of the Citadel is going to be something in there that he's going to find out. And it's going to be crucial to how they defeat the White Walkers. So, yeah, of course, Sam's going to play some part. I don't think you have him link up with Bran and find out about Jon's true parentage and the whole thing with Rhaegar and Lyanna. And then that just be it. There's got to be more.
I hear you. I think there has to be more too. I think that we'll definitely see some type of Sam Bran situation jump off this season like we've seen. But if it's just Valyrian steel making, I think we're going to have to see something bigger than that. I mean, I think that's big, but I think we need to see something more. He has to discover something bigger than that in that book. I don't know if it's going to be a a recipe with wildfire and dragon eggs that makes a nuclear bomb type situation, but it's got to be something. But right now, we are also joined by my man, 50 Gram, my right hand. And as always, my right hand is on the trigger. My ninja, the one, the only, Moji House Osman. What up?
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, Charlie? What up, Don Willi? What up, Teflon? What's up, people in the chat?
That is what's up, Moji. Now, we are talking about the Night's King and Bran. So I throw it to you. Do you think that we are going to see any new powers from Bran Stark this upcoming season?
You know what I've been thinking about. I think Sansa is gonna use Bran for some greediness of her for her own self. I think she's gonna ask Bran to send her dreams, so she can know what Cersei's doing in King's Landing. That's how I think Bran's gonna use his powers. He's gonna be able to send dreams to people that he wants to send dreams to. He's gonna maybe take Sansa over to the Heart Tree that's in Winterfell, and that's the spot where he can send whoever he wants to dreams. And Sansa is gonna use that power for her own shit on Cersei. That's what I think the powers are gonna be for Bran. Sending dreams.
I hear you. I have to say, I apologize for Nightbot. He doesn't know his what he's doing. You know what I mean? Out there, sometimes I'll take care of Nightbot after this stream. I promise that. No doubt about it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that you're right. There's definitely who the heads he can get into and what dreams does he have left to send. I think the battle is here. We are on, right? I think when this season starts, there's no time to waste. It's not going to be a time jump. I don't think it shouldn't be a time jump. I'm hoping it's not. It should just be at this particular time. That's the wall. He should be a couple of days out when they start. That's what I'm hoping to see. So within that time, what is Bran going to be able to pull off? What is he going to be able to learn to stop the Night's King? Now, I have to, this has to me, it has to go down to Time Traveling Bran. And since we have the creator of the Time Traveling Bran theory here with us, I would like him to explain exactly why he came up with the theory of the Time Traveling Bran, what made him think of this theory, and please explain to the people in the chat what exactly is this theory in his own words. Don Willi.
All right. Yeah, so basically, you know, the whole Bran time traveling thing. Reading in the last book that it came out, A Dance with Dragons, you know, Bran has 3 chapters in there. And in the very last chapter, he he's going through the weirwood roots, and you know, he hooks up in there, and he starts to see visions of the past, right? And for me, I'm like, look, you know what? Once he actually talks to Ned, or he yells at Ned, and Ned hears him, I was like, there's something to this, because it's one thing if you are just able to see the past, but the moment that someone in the past can hear you, and this is only the first time that Bran is doing this, then that to me signals that there's going to be a lot more that he's going to be able to do with this power. And given, you know, events that we haven't seen yet in the books or the show, and also given the events that Bran had saw while he was actually in the visions, I was like, okay, well, Bran is going to do something with this. There's going to be some key event that he is going to influence somehow. Now, one thing we've already seen him do in the show is make, you know, the man who was Willis into Hodor. Now in the books, he's called Walder. I don't know why they decided to call him Hodor. Maybe they thought people would think he was Walder Frey or something. But the point being, he's already affected things. Now the previous three-eyed raven told him, the past is already written, ink is already dry. But then that still means if he was able to make that man into Hodor, right, and that was something he didn't know. He didn't know that he did that, but it was something he did in the past. So I'm thinking there's still going to be something else that's going to happen in the future that Bran will have affected. It's something that he doesn't know that he is going to do. It might have been something he's already done or something that is going to happen that in order for him to facilitate this, he's going to have to go back in the past to do it. Now, I know, there's a lot of people who have also, because of things that old Nan have said, they think that he could be other versions of Bran Stark. And while, that seems partially plausible, the only problem I have with that is that he would wind up living other people's lives, and how in the world would that affect those other Brandons if they really weren't themselves, if they were just being inhabited by a future Bran Stark? So yeah, I'm thinking there's gonna be something that he doesn't know that he's going to do, but in order for the big event to get done, that's going to be something that it happens that's going to allow for the children of the forest and also human beings to defeat the White Walkers. It's something he's going to have to go to the past to do. And real quick, another thing that I think is going to happen, and this might sound absolutely ridiculous, but I think that it is also part of the reason, well, not part of the reason, but it's also another thing that I happen to think that Bran might possibly be the father of the direwolves that we get in the story. But I'll save that for later if you guys want to discuss that.
Yes, we definitely will get into
Hold up. Your internet broke up when you said that. Say that again. You think he's the father of what?
The father of the current direwolves in the story.
He's the father of the direwolves.
Yes.
Like a human being a father of animals.
Not in the way that you're thinking.
I was gonna say.
Well, listen.
Okay.
I'm with Don Willi on this 100% on the direwolf situation. I no doubt that Bran is the one who sent these direwolves to himself. If you want to say that he impregnated the other direwolf, he would walk the one direwolf and impregnated the other one and had sex with the direwolf, that's possible. I believe that could have been how he did it, but there's no doubt that Bran is the one who got these direwolves down to him. And I also agree with the Bloodraven situation. I think when dealing with the Bloodraven situation, when you're talking about time travel, when he says that the ink is already dry, I think he's correct. The ink is dry. I think what we're going to see when it comes down to time travel is that we're going to see the events, the answers to these events that have already happened. I don't think we're going to see Bran go back into time and then all of a sudden some type of events are changed in the future. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be something that we already have there's a mystery, and that's the and Bran, he goes back in time and solves it. Like, why did Hodor say Hodor? He went back in the time, and we've seen that before Bran was even born. And that's what people have to understand. Before Bran was born, he went back in the time and got Hodor to say Hodor, right? He's the one who did. So we see also in the first book right off the back, we see him do this in the future, contact Jon Snow, right? So this is only in the first book before he has all these powers. We see him connecting with Jon in the dream, right? And this is before we even see anything. So there's no doubt that we are going to see a lot of powers from Bran when dealing with time travel. What say to you about that, Charlie, in Westeros, and Bran Stark and time travel?
Yeah. So I first of all, I want to say that Don Willi makes a great point in terms of mentioning how Bran actually has influenced the past, or influenced the past to influence the future, with his comment on Hodor. I am more inclined to agree with you, Tony, in the way that he influences the past. I don't think it'll be a very, very overt or direct way that he would do that. However, what I am hoping for is that he will do something in this final season that will not only influence the resolution we're going to get for the conflict with the White Walkers, but that'll also influence an important event in the Age of Heroes, or the Age of Mythical Kings of Westeros, an event that will take place in the spin-off series we're going to get, which would kind of be a nice lead-in from this series to that one. And I kind of say that selfishly because I really, really hope they'll make some tie-ins between the two stories. I just think that would be a cool way to tie the two in together. That's pretty much it. In terms of Don Willi's direwolf theory, I think that's actually a very interesting one. I don't know what exactly it is because you haven't explained it, but if I read between the lines and see what you're implying, I think you're onto something. At the very least, if he influences the direwolves, the mother direwolf and the father direwolf, to at least meet up in order to produce the Stark wolves that they eventually possess. But I'll leave that at that.
Mojini?
Man, I'm digging all that shit right there. Like I seen Tony's video the other day on Bran sending the direwolves to the Stark family. I seen what Don Willi's talking about. I'm digging all that shit. And that just got me thinking, right? The Bloodraven told him the past is already written, but the ink is dry, yet Bran was able to talk to his father, and his father, younger Ned, heard something. So how can the ink be dry if younger Ned heard something? Right? And then I'm thinking back to the book, and fucking Viramir Sixskins, when he used to go inside his wolves, he used to fuck the female wolf. He used to go in and get it on with the female wolf while he was inside the male wolf. Didn't he?
Yes, he did. And you got to look at Bran Stark. When you deal with Bran Stark, I know everybody out there, you want to see poor baby Bran. He got pushed out the window, all this shit, you know what I mean? But this man is truly evil too, all right? This is what the deal is. Bran Stark is a disgusting person. He has done every abomination that we have seen, done or said by Vlad Sixskins that you're not supposed to do. Bran Stark has done it, and he's enjoyed doing it. Now, there's a reason why they're showing him break these rules. They're not just having him break these rules just for the fuck of it. There's a reason why they told you that those rules were considered an abomination, and then you see Bran Stark break those rules. All right, it's not that he's just trying shit out. He's not. He's enjoying this shit. He enjoys eating people. He enjoys all this shit. All right, so Bran Stark is not a good person, people. It's coming down. Go ahead, Mo.
And there was a reason Viramir Sixskin's story was in that book. That his story was to tell you all the things that Bran can and cannot do, technically cannot do, but Bran still did it. Like when Viramir Sixskins warged into that woman in the book, all right, and then she screamed, and she made him hop up out of her body, all right. But Bran's done that. He's warged inside Hodor, all right. And then Viramir Sixskins, when he goes inside his wolves, he gets it on with his female wolf. All right, there's a reason why George R. Martin put Viramir up in there.
No doubt about it. Bran Stark cannot be trusted, and that's the way I see it. Don Willi, let's go into the werewolf situation. You brought it up. Tell us about exactly how Bran got these werewolves. Your theory how Bran got these werewolves down to the Stark children.
Well, basically, look, and this goes back into the whole time traveling thing. I think that Bran, in the search for more knowledge about the White Walkers, is gonna wind up going into a direwolf, and this will be approximately 3 years, or whenever about 3 years ago in story time, because in the actual book time, it's only been about 2 years. But you figure what gestation period for wolves is maybe 6 or 7 months. So you say about 3 years before the beginning of the story, maybe longer. Bran is going back in time, using his abilities, jumping into a particular wolf that he kind of gravitates towards. And something about the wolf is familiar. It reminds him of summer, but it's not summer. And at this point, remember another thing that he was told by Jojen is him staying inside of the wolf too long, he would actually pick up more wolf-like traits, forget about who he is, etc., etc. So it's a thing where I think where Bran will frequently take trips inside of a particular direwolf that is north of the wall, and he will be looking for info on the White Walkers, how where they come from, possibly how to defeat them. Wind up losing himself to the direwolf urges, and is either going to impregnate or be impregnated, and then wind up seeing something that is going to scare him back into being himself. But by then, he'll have already had the mother direwolf going down south. But again, it's something that I think will take place possibly over a number of chapters, and maybe even over like a number of months, where it's like, all right, well, cool, I'm making these excursions, I'm learning things, but you know what? Something about this wolf, and I don't think that Bran is going to be fully aware. Like Tony, you think that he purposely sent those direwolves? I personally don't think he's going to be fully aware of the consequence of what he's doing, because remember, Bran has absolutely no idea about the rules of warging, about the things that are supposed to be abominations. So Bran doing this stuff, like you call him evil. I don't necessarily know that is him being evil versus it being, he's ignorant of how the world outside of his privileged circle works. Remember, he is the son of a lord. There are just certain realities that he is not going to have a clue as to how things work. He knows nothing about wildling culture. He's never met any other wargs before. The closest he's met to another warg would have been Jojen, and Jojen's not even a warg, he's just a green seer. So it's one of those things where he's doing things, he's experimenting, and he's not thinking about the consequences, because him growing up in the upper echelons of Westeros, he's never had to think about the kind of consequences that somebody like a Varamir Sixskins would have. But now, mind you, Varamir Sixskins knew the consequences and gave zero fucks about it, though. And that's the big difference. Varamir Sixskins was evil. Varamir Sixskins was definitely evil. I don't think that Bran is evil. I just think he doesn't realize what the consequences are. So when he does stuff, it's like, oh, no, it's cool, because he hasn't experienced, the bad things that can come of doing what it is that he's doing.
It's like a kid. It's like a kid in a candy store.
No doubt about it.
Pretty much.
let me talk about this real quick. So, when dealing with the Vlad Sixskins and all his rules that we get, these are the only rules that we know, right? We don't know if there's any these rules Hagen gives him. We don't know if there are any other rules that say that these things are right to do. But we are told for a specific reason that these are the bad things to do. Now, Bran is doing these things. Is he doing them to be bad? No, he's not doing them to be bad. He doesn't know that these are the rules. He wasn't given these rules, but we are giving these rules. And the reason why we're giving these rules is to show that everything that Bran is doing is breaking the rules. Does he know he's breaking the rules? No. But that's why we are told this. It's a clue for us to know that, hey, Bran Stark is not as good as you think he is. Now, the reason why I think that he sent the direwolves to all of his family members is twofold. Number one, I think the direwolves right off the bat, their job is to protect the Starks. I think someone who's going to send them there would have had to want to protect all the Starks' children. And I think that these direwolves, they have taken on the traits of their siblings. I think the only way that happens right off the bat is that it's Bran inside these wolves. And I think that every time we see a major episode with these direwolves, I think it's Bran walking these wolves. When we see that direwolf attacking Joffrey, I think that that's Bran inside that direwolf. So if you look at Arya's face, she is shocked. When we look at when Summer attacks the cat's paw assassin, I think that's Bran inside that direwolf when he's doing that. I think that we can see that when Lady is killed at that particular time, as soon as she is stabbed, we see that is when Bran opens his eyes. And I think that is because he is forced at his lady at that particular time and when he is killed. And I think that also foreshadows what's going to happen to Jon Snow and Ghost later on. And that's why Ghost is going to have to go. But we could talk about that in a later video or later something else. But that's the way I feel about that, why I think Bran sent those things out. And that's why I think that Bran is evil. So I think that it's going to be proven that Bran is evil, and I have to get on the James Johnson bandwagon on that and saying that Bran is the Night's King, and I think that's what that's what I mean when he's evil. All these evil things that we are showing a hint to the viewer or the reader to show you that in the end, Bran Stark is going to be the Night's King when this is all said and done. And I think that these little steps that we see him being these abominations and these things that are being bad is the hints that we know that are going to eventually lead Bran to become the Night's King. Because I think when you hear Jojen and when you hear Bloodraven say, if you stay too long where you don't belong, you might get stuck and drown. There's no reason for them to say that unless someone's going to have to get stuck in the past. There's only one person that can really get stuck in the past, and that's Bran. So I think that he has to be trying to do something, and he's going to wind up getting stuck. And all these attempts with the direwolves and all that is his attempt to try to fix what he's already broken. That's what I think it's all about.
You remember the first time Viramir saw Ghost, and he knew how important Ghost was? Like, he was admiring the shit out of Ghost. Yeah, you remember that?
He said that would be a second life fit for a king, right?
Second life fit for a king.
Which also foreshadows, lets you know that Jon Snow is actually Rhaegar's son right there. Charlie, you going to say something?
Yeah, I got a few thoughts on everything that was just said. All interesting theories. I will start off by saying that. In terms of Varamir Sixskins, though, I think we have to remember that he is a book-only character. So in terms of how he applies to the show, we do have to take that with a bit of a grain of salt. We also know that that Bran, that isn't just a warg, but he's also a green seer. So we don't necessarily know that the rules that Varamir lays out in the books would necessarily apply to Bran himself. For all we know, maybe these are just rules that were set out by the Green Seers themselves originally, and that they imposed on the wargs in maybe like some sort of primordial form of a knight's code in the early years of Westeros, when wargs and Green Seers were much more prominent and probably played a much closer role together. As far as Bran warging into animals and losing himself and stuff, I just don't know if that's a plot line, again, that they'll address in the show, but books, well, it's not something I would put past George R. R. Martin necessarily. Again, this is in terms of your theory about Bran being an evil, twisted person, Tony. My hunch is I don't think I would go so far as to say that Bran is an evil, twisted person. I do think you have a point in saying that he does some pretty questionable things. However, in that sense, I think I agree more with Don Willi in terms of his direct intentions. It's more willful ignorance in my mind, if anything, and at this point, especially in the TV show, but I think also in the books. I see it more of like an immature child making mistakes. See it like with Hodor, with revealing his location to the Night's King, in the weirwood tree and all that. So that's kind of where I stand with Bran on that topic. But as far as Bran stands right now in the show, well, broadly speaking, it is obvious he's kind of lost a portion of his humanity, namely, and that shows itself in the way he interacts with his family members. Personally, I think ultimately his role will come down to being self-sacrificial. I think his role is that he'll likely try to make some kind of move to stop the White Walkers, either succeeding or failing badly. Whatever the outcome, I do think it's going to be ball game over for Bran. Maybe the Night's King consumes him. If we're talking about James Johnson's theory specifically, but for now, I'm not leaning so much into buying that Bran is the Night's King. I think it would be more so a case of, maybe Bran being taken over by the Night's King, or the Night's King absorbing Bran's powers in some capacity. I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're both one and the same person. That's just my thought on the matter anyway.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Nancy T, for the $20 super chat, for the Thug Mug. Thank you, the Thug Mug, and the Don Tony Teflon appreciates that. Cha! No doubt. We got over 100 people watching. We only got 50-something likes, so please smash that like button. If you want more people in the chat rocking with you, you got to let them know you're here with us. And the way to let them know you're here with us is to hit that like button, and that's how YouTube knows you're having a good time. So, right off the bat, Charlie, real quick, Don, I'll let you get right in there real quick. But, yeah, as I said, I'll reiterate, I don't think that Bran is what he's doing is intentionally evil. I think it's just a hint for them showing us that eventually he's going to turn evil by him doing these things and stuff. I think that's why they're showing us. Not that he's doing evil things. He is doing evil things, but not that he's intentionally doing them. It's just a hint to show that this is bad. As if someone said, grabbing your dick in public is a bad thing was one of the rules. And then you've seen the baby later on grabbing his dick. And then later on, that baby winds up becoming a serial killer. I think it's a type situation like that. Now, I don't think people who grab the dicks are serial killers. Michael Jackson wasn't one of them, right? And he grabbed his an awful lot. I'm just trying to give you an example. Don Willi, hit him up.
All right. You know what? I just want to piggyback over something that Charlie said, and that was, about the Night's King possibly absorbing Bran. And you know what that made me think of? And since we're gonna, since we're supposed to be doing show stuff, that made me think of The Matrix, the third one. Where in order to beat Agent Smith, Neo had to allow himself to be absorbed by Agent Smith, and then it was the machine Matrix was able to actually kill off that program. And so, this is just something I thought of just now. What we could possibly see is that Bran is absorbed by the Night's King physically, and then somehow inside of the Night's King's mind, Bran is able to fight back, and that's how Jon Snow is able to defeat him. I think Bran would still be alive, as part of the Weirwood network, but physically he would be dead, but still somehow would be able to contact Jon and whoever else is around and let them know, like, hey, my body's dead, but I'm still here. So, that was just something I thought up, after hearing what Charlie said a moment ago. But I don't know. What are you guys thinking about that?
I'm thinking that you have to look at what we were shown in the show for the visual real quick. When Bran Stark is in the cave with the three-eyed raven, right? He looks over and crawls over to Bloodraven's tree, right? He grabs on to Bloodraven's branch and then finds himself inside the place with all of the White Walkers, right? So this is Bloodraven's dream he's in. And Bloodraven's there with the Night's King and all these whites, but Bloodraven is nowhere to be goddamn found. Then we see Bran get grabbed by the Night's King. Now, Night's King doesn't try to kill him. Night's King doesn't pull his sword out. He doesn't have any whites attack him. All right. We see him attack Jon Snow. We see him attack people around Jon Snow, I should say, mostly. We don't see exactly direct attack. We see a white walker directly attack Jon Snow, though. So we don't see this same aggression happen towards Bran. Bran is supposedly this guy that can stop him. But yet at this particular time, we see nothing. We see him grab his arm. He didn't try to put him in a bear hug. He didn't get him in a Kimura. This was not a chokehold. All right. There's no guillotine going on here. Not a figure four leg lock, not a Boston goddamn crab. All he did was grab his arm. All right. I've grabbed my daughter's arm like that before when she's almost walked into the street and I had to pull her back. Looked like a situation like that. That's the type of grab it looked like to me. All right. So then Bran gets scared. He jumps out this dream and then he lies, right? He lies. Bloodraven says specifically he touched you. And then he says nothing. And then he goes, no, he didn't. And then, yes, he did. Bloodraven. So where the fuck was Bloodraven? Because we didn't see his ass, but he knew he touched him. So we'll go to Mojini because I know, Mojini, you are the Frost Scale theory creator dealing with that. How do you feel about that whole touching situation with Bran and the Night's King?
He gave Bran Frost Scale. That's what the touch was all about. The touch was to put a mini GPS on Bran so he could keep tabs on him. And that's why the real Bloodraven wanted to get the fuck out of the cave. Because he knew that the Night's King knew where they were now because he touched them with the Frost Scale. All right? It's not grayscale, it's Frost Scale. All right? Frost Scale doesn't kill you. It's just mini GPS. That's what he put on Bran. He wanted to know where Bran is at all times to know what because he knows Bran is strong. Later on in the seasons, couple seasons later, when Bran goes inside the Ravens and tries to go spy on the Night's King, boom, the Night's King knew he was inside the Ravens and got him the hell up out the Ravens so he couldn't spy on him because he got Frost Scale on him. Bran's got Frost Scale. All right, so the Night's King will always know where Bran is at all times because he touched him when Bran was not supposed to be in Bloodraven's dream when Bloodraven was spying on the Night's King. Now, the funny thing is that's true. Where was Bloodraven when he was spying on the Night's King? And I think he was inside a White Walker. I think he was chilling inside a White Walker in that big ass White Walker army. And he's so strong, the Bloodraven's so strong that the Night's King couldn't detect him because he doesn't have Frost Scale on him. But Bran isn't as strong as Bloodraven was. So as soon as he got into that area, Night's King immediately knew he was there and touched him and dropped the Frost Scale on him. I had something else to say, but you got me down the Frost Scale rabbit hole, man.
That's all right. We can come back to that. We can come back dealing with the Frost Scale. Don Willi, you heard what Mojini had to say. Frost Scale, is this a GPS tracking device? You heard, I'm telling you, Bloodraven allowed this to go down. This is what I'm telling you. The Don Tony Teflon is telling you that Bloodraven allowed Bran to get grabbed for a reason. He knew this was going to happen, and it couldn't be for his death because he had to know this was going to happen. He had to know. What do you feel about the Frost Scale situation in dealing with Bran Stark and the Night King? Will it come into play again?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it kind of already has, like Moji said, Bran is trying to spy on the Night King, and dude looked up and was like, fuck out of here, son. I see you, and it was one of those things where, yeah, how in the world would he know that? I mean, he hasn't been able to do that to anyone else other than Bran. You know, he didn't know where Benjen was all that time, or else I'm pretty sure Benjen would have bit the dust again earlier. He wasn't able to track John and his crew when they went north of the wall, but you know, whenever it comes to Bran, you know, when Bran has any kind of dealings, he's able to find him. So I'm thinking, you know, the Night's King and his army is going to show up in Winterfell specifically because he knows Bran is there, because there are, you know, over a dozen castles in the north, but I think they're going to wind up bypassing most of the other ones and heading straight down the King's Road to Winterfell. And it's all because of, you know, as Moji calls it, the frost scale.
No doubt, no doubt. Charlie in Westeros, how do you feel about this frost scale? It's this Night's King grabbing Bran. It didn't seem like he was trying to hurt him to me, but what do you think was going on in this whole situation?
Yeah, no, definitely Mo's theory on this frost scale thing is an interesting one. I don't know if I would go so far to call it as a power where the Night King knows at all times where Bran is, but I do think he did something to detect his power, or his powers when they're manifested, like warging. Remember, the Night's King and the Green Seers have a common source of their power, being they're both creations of the Children of the Forest. So I think it might be more of a case of recognizing a similar ability when it's being manifested close to him, the Night's King, that is. Again, and also the Night's King does seem to have a bone to pick with Bran at this point for whatever reason, maybe having to do with his creation by the Children of the Forest. In terms of Benjen, because you mentioned Don, that the Night's King didn't really do anything when Benjen was moving around. I don't think it was necessarily a case before of the Night's King not being able to detect Benjen. I think it might be more a case of the Night's King still building up his forces or readying himself to march south. And that moment seemed to only occur once he encountered Bran in the weirwood tree. So I think now that he is going south, it was more so a conscious choice of not really bothering with Benjen at that time. And in Bran's case, it's more of a, how to put it, it's more of an intentional move to stop the humans from seeing what he's doing at this point, now that he's trying to ready himself for battle against the forces of humanity. At least that's my kind of hunch. Either way, though, you guys all have good points, so I could see it being, frost scale as Moji presented it, word for word.
Frost scale, baby, frost scale. You got to mark that hashtag frost scale. Mojini Linguini, King of the North. You know, that's what it is. When you're dealing with the Don Tony Teflon, when you're dealing with the small council, when you're dealing with the Hypes Watch, Don Willi, James Johnson, all of us, you can look at all of our theories and everything else, and it seems like this is the way that this song of Ice and Fire series is gonna end, just like that. And these things was made up 3.5 years ago. This ain't new, people. You done said this stuff 3.5 years ago. All right, now
Teflon, I remember what I was gonna say. Can I slip it in real quick?
Hey, not in me. You can't. God damn it. I don't get down like that. No homo. All right, like that. I'm just playing, though. I'm just playing with you. I ain't playing. I mean, I ain't just playing with you. I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with the jokes. I'm saying that right ahead, baby.
Pause, no homo.
That was a plot twist.
That would have been a huge plot twist, god damn it.
So check this, right? Like what you guys were talking about earlier with the Night's King, like trapping Bran into the Matrix. You know, like I've been digging this Matrix theory for a while now. Like I like that we call, like most of us that have read the books and watch the show heavily, we call this whole green seeing thing and all that basically the Matrix, and that's what it is. And if you guys think that Bran is gonna get gobbled up into the Night's King's Matrix if what Green's seeing and all that really is a matrix, we've already seen this. We've already seen an example of this. The Night's King killed the original OG Bloodraven inside of Bran's matrix. So it can be done. It can be done. And the great thing would be next season is if Bran can talk to the OG Bloodraven, because he's inside of Bran. He's in Bran's consciousness because he died inside Bran's dream at Winterfell. Yeah, dig what I'm saying, fellas.
Exactly what you're saying, without a shadow of a doubt. And I know that all you people, especially a lot of people in the chat, over 130 people watching right now, 71 likes. Please hit that like button if you want more people to be in the chat with you. What you got to do is you got to hit the like. Let people know that we're up here representing, because that's how YouTube notifies you that we are in the building. Small Council Hypes Watts, Mogini Languidi, Don, Tony Teflon, Don Willi, Charlie Westeros. We're doing our things with everybody up here. The Hit Squad, Renee M of House Stark, Kevin Dunn right here, Nick, Sir Ryan Vine, Lady Wolverton. Wait, Jen. Lady Wolverton's dead, and Wolverton is her last name. Everybody out here, Killmonger the Rebel, chilling with us right now. So many more. Thank you for joining us, talking about Bran and the Night's King and everything dealing with that. So now, Peter Griffith, everybody chilling. So now let's get with Bloodraven. We'll talk about this because he's here right now. Now, to me, Bloodraven's a dirty fool, right? In fact, I think a lot of people are dirty fools if you haven't gotten that yet, but I do. And that's just the way I feel. All right. So Bloodraven to me knew what was going to happen. And he knew that Bran had to get grabbed at this particular time. Because I always think that people need to realize that these people could see the future. So all this stuff has to have already been planned out and ahead of time. So I think that why would he want Bran to get grabbed if he knew the Night's King was going to find them? Why would he say it? Because Bran came back trying to lie about that shit. And Bloodraven called him on, like, no, he did touch you. That means Bloodraven seen him touch him. That also goes back to dealing with Benjen's situation. When Benjen runs into Bran and he says, you'll be ready for the Night's King. You can watch my video, Huge Clue, Bran Stark. And you'll see I said this back then. I said that how did Benjen know that Bran seen the Night's King? How did he know that? How did Benjen know the situation that he's seen the Night's King in this vision? How does he know these things, Benjen? There's only one way he knows these things, and that's because it's Bran Stark all the way as the Night's King, and he's trying to correct his mistakes because he goes back and he gets stuck in the past. I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen, people. This is whether it's the guy in the tree at that particular time. Now, I know that when you're talking about the books and we're dealing with the Night's King, the Lord Commander, it's a different situation. But for show purposes right now, I think that is the route that they're going with this story with Bran Stark. And I think that if we look at how Bran Stark was first tried to be killed, I think that's further proof that is going to happen, because we see the Cat's Paw assassin armed with a Valyrian steel dagger, right? Tried to kill Bran. Why would this Cat's Paw assassin be armed with this Valyrian steel dagger? I mean, I know you want to say, oh, this is the way they're introducing this to us, right? And we know what the true meaning of the use of Valyrian steel is, and that is to kill White Walkers, to kill the Night's King. So I think that is the reason why it was introduced. I think that was a subtle clue in the beginning showing that Bran Stark is eventually going to become the Night's King. But besides that, Don Willi, we will start with you on this situation with dealing with Bran Stark and the Night's King. Next season, what do you think is going to happen with Bran Stark at Winterfell when it goes down? Will Bran Stark make his way out of Winterfell? Is he going to survive the initial onslaught. I don't know if he's going to survive the whole thing. Let's not talk about that. Just the initial, we know we're going to get a battle at Winterfell. Will he survive that first battle, do you think?
No, I think he's not going to survive the battle at Winterfell. I think it's going to be a situation. I think that's going to be one of the big shock moments because, since people are going to be expecting that in order to defeat the Night's King, you're going to need Bran. I think it's going to be one of those things where people are like, oh my God, they killed Bran. How are you going to defeat the Night's King now, without him? So I think that Bran is not going to survive, not at least physically. Yeah, I think that Bran's body is going to be out of here, but Bran's spirit will remain.
Charlie, what do you think? The first battle in Winterfell, will Bran Stark make it out?
Sorry, just give me a second there. I'm inclined to agree with Don Willi in terms of Bran's fate in the series. I don't think he ultimately lives past the final, the end of the series, really, because he doesn't really have a role to play beyond the current events in Westeros. As far as his role goes in terms of the Battle of Winterfell, I could see it going as Don Willi says. He tries to stop the Night's King only to lose his life or only to lose his physical presence at least. Maybe that only happens later on, further south. Maybe at the at that island south of the wall. I forget the name of it. In the middle of that lake.
The God's Eye.
The God's Eye. Yeah. If he gets that far for that matter, I honestly don't really have any specifics in terms of where I see Bran going physically in the next season. In terms of what you said before, Don Willi jumped in there. With respect to Bloodraven, though, Don, with respect to Bloodraven, Tony, is that I do agree with you that he knew what would happen to him, including Bran meeting or being touched by the Night's King. He had hundreds of years to see what would go down, past, present, and future. So I think that is something he knew would happen. I think it was also something that was meant to be the moment of his death, and he was aware of that. And also, for whatever reason, in his green seer ability, he knew he was not supposed to prevent or stop that event from transpiring. Thus far, we haven't really seen any of the green seers looking into the future, only the past. My personal hunch is that maybe they can only see as far forward as their lives are concerned. So maybe that's a little crackpot of me, but I don't think Bloodraven would ever be able to see beyond his death date. And also, I think that's the reason for keeping, I guess, keeping us in a sense of disbelief without, spoiling future events in the series as far as that goes. You also brought up the cat's paw dagger. I don't really have many theories on that either, other than it was obviously meant to come into Arya's possession as a weapon to fight the White Walkers. Beyond that, I have nothing really to add on that. So those are kind of just my thoughts and everything you brought up.
What I'm saying, Charlie, as Don Tony Teflon's theory, if you look at when Bran hands Arya that dagger, he has a huge pause before he gives it to her. A huge pause. He gets shook, and they show him when she takes it, his fingers still lingering, like he was still holding the dagger. And I think that's because Bran knows that Arya is going to have to stab his ass. And I think that Bran is going to have to survive this Winterfell battle, because I still think that in order to stop the Night's King, you're going to have to kill Bran. But going back to Mogini on those thoughts real quick, what do you think about that?
He was lingering on that dagger because he knew his sister is gonna die. I told y'all a year ago, I'm sticking to my theory. Bran knows Arya is going to die, either by a White Walker or by the Night's King. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going to be like Wild Bill Hickok in the Wild Wild West. I'm sticking to my guns, folks. All y'all Arya lovers, you're going to be upset. But
he's trying to kill us.
but to get to Bran, I think Bran survives whatever happens at Winterfell. Whatever. I mean, the Night's King could not just only come to Winterfell because Bran has Frostscale on him. He could just go straight to Winterfell because he's a Stark. He was once a Stark, and he knows where the Starks lay their heads.
You're saying you think that this Night's King that we're seeing right now is the same 13th Lord Commander Night's King that we heard about from the beginning? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This Night's King is a Stark.
He's the same dude.
Stark. He's the same dude.
Same dude. Don Willi, is he the same dude to you or what?
I mean, listen, he's obviously some form of proto Stark. I don't know if he was necessarily a Stark, but I mean, he's obviously a first man. I mean, listen, obviously, the guy who got stabbed in the chest is the Night's King. I mean, like, that can't be debated at all, I don't think. But as far as whether or not he's a Stark, that's that one's kind of up in the air. I mean, because
I'm sorry, but I mean, when the long night happened, and we're talking about, there was no Night's King, right? There was no Night's King during the first long night with the Battle of the White Walkers. None at all. All right, we agree. Everyone agrees on that.
Yeah,
I know people like whatever, they want to jump around the timeline, but I think we can all agree on that. So the Night's King comes far later after the long night happens.
Well, okay. See oh man. See, here's another theory I got, man. So you got the Night's King, who was 13th Lord Commander. I mean, are we sticking to the show? Or are we going?
Well, we're touching on both, right? Isn't that what
I
think everybody does, right? Everyone, if it fits your theory, that's what you do, right? If it fits your theory, it works. If it's in the show, okay, go with it. If it doesn't, you can't use the show. That's what everybody does.
You're dipping your feet. You're dipping your feet in both waters, the book and the show.
Well, here's the thing, because I think the show Night King versus the Night's King from the books are gonna be totally different, because remember, in the show, for one, they call him something different. That's supposedly on purpose. And the thing about it too is, in the show, they don't go into the lore of the Night's King and supposedly marrying, female White Walker and taking over being king of the Wall and being brought down by, Jorman and Bran the Breaker. So I think they decided, okay, you know what, I think the Night King is supposed to be more of a representation of, this is the face of the big evil, because remember, in the books you have the Great Other. The Great Other is this nameless, faceless being, and George has already said he is not having any Deus Ex Machina. He's not having any God show up in the books, so we don't know that the Great Other is an actual person. I think what Dan and Dave decided to do is, like, you know what, in order for people to have a visual representation of what they think of the true villain is, they decided, okay, we have someone who was a prominent villain from the books who isn't necessarily around in the books anymore, but if we bring that kind of character into the show and make him the leader of the White Walkers, then we have a face to put to the ultimate evil. So I'm thinking that, whoever that person was in the show that got stabbed by the Children of the Forest and became the first White Walker, he's not supposed to be the same guy who was the 13th Lord Commander from the books. His role is simply to be like a virus. And this is, like, I bring it back to the Matrix again. When Agent Smith went rogue, he wound up making a whole bunch of copies of himself. The original Night King, the original White Walker, went rogue. he made copies of himself the way that he could, but then he found out he had another power, and that power was bringing back people from the dead. So this, to me, it just seems like they decided, okay, cool. We have this person who's going to be the face of evil. This is the ultimate one that you have to kill in order to stop the army, and that's why they had not for Barrack. That's why they had Barrack specifically say to John, kill him and this all ends. Because he was like, yeah, he turned them. And remember, we still haven't gotten an explanation for exactly how he made the deal with Craster for the sons. We don't know why it is that he allowed Craster to live and was like, yeah, listen, I'll just take your sons and turn them into White Walkers. We don't know how long it takes for those babies to mature into fully grown White Walkers. There's still a whole bunch that they have not explained about this, and we might not ever get a full explanation. We just know that, the for the most part, as much as we can speculate, is that the other the actual White Walkers are not the whites. The other ones that we see around him, for the most part, are Craster's sons, who are also Gilly's, uncles and brothers and all that, right? And like I said, I just think it's a thing where they decided, you know what, we're gonna take this character and make him the big bad in order to kind of simplify it for the audience who A may not read the books, and B, uh just so the masses would have a big bad to focus on, because
They didn't even name him the same thing that he's named in the book. So what you're saying is true. In the show they simplified the Night King, so we don't know if he's the old Stark, the 13th Lord Commander. In the books, he probably was, but on the show they don't even call him the Night's King. They just call him the Night's King or whatever. They added the X.
Right? They changed it. They had it as that, and then they changed it when they got caught. I think that there's no doubt that he is going to be the big bad in the books when it's all said and done. I think that I don't think that's debatable. I don't think there's going to be anything else. There is. It has to be him. Who else is there going to be? I think it may not be Bran. It may not be presented the same way, but I do believe that they will have the Night's King, and because for them to pull him out of everyone else that they could have pulled, he's only mentioned so slight. To pull that one person after being mentioned so slight, I think that there's a reason why they had to pull him. And I think they had to be told to pull him that he's going to be the big bag in the end. I'm not going to give Dan and Dave the credit to say that they read that little bit of the Night's King and said, hey, let's say take this and make this guy the big bad. I think they were told that, hey, this is who's going to become the big bad in the show. I mean, other people want to give them credit. You can. I can't give them that type of credit. I think that they were told that that's the way it's going to roll in the show with them.
Well, but hold on. All right, so look, real quick, and this might sound kind of tinfoil, but I mean, I did do a video on this whole thing anyway. The Night's King in the books, Bran is gonna find out who the Night's King was, and listen, you know what? Fuck it, man. The Night's King was Bran the Builder.
All right.
Night's King was Bran the Builder, and he was also the last hero. But anyway,
we ain't gonna let you say it all, Don Willi.
Nah.
I don't want you to say it. I want people to understand that if you want to hear this whole full theory, you know what you got to do. You got to go and subscribe to my brother Don Willi's channel. I'm gonna let him give a little bit of it, but I don't want to give him the whole thing. I want you to go subscribe to Don Willi's channel and look for this video. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what bigger villain or what bigger secret to reveal in terms of villain? Because remember, the Night's King, everything about him was supposedly struck from the records. You know, so it's one of those things where it would be the biggest blemish, not only on House Stark, but also on the North, to find out that the greatest hero of the North was also the greatest villain. So you guys go and watch the video where I explain more, if you want more of that. All right. Anyways, so, I'm thinking in the show though that the Night King we have in the show is not Bran the Builder. Night King in the show may have been some other Stark. He may have been someone else. But yeah, it's one of those things where again, like the thing that I'm noticing with the show a lot is that they are heavily influenced by other Hollywood properties, and one Hollywood property in particular is The Matrix. And I'm just looking at the whole thing with the way that the Night King's powers work is like Agent Smith, and the whole thing with being able to step inside and go into other people's dreams and affect them in the physical world. Another thing like Agent Smith. And so I'm just looking like, okay, well, how did the Matrix wind up ending? And obviously there's going to be more to it than that. The Matrix ended one way, the show will not end the same way the Matrix did, but I do believe that the arc of the Night King, the big bad, will end the same way that Agent Smith did.
No doubt, no doubt. Look at Don Willi put that video out, that the Matrix Game of Thrones connection. I can't wait to see it. Don't try to take Don Willi's shit. All right, don't do it. If you do it, we're gonna call you on it. All right, that's the way it is. All right, Charlie in Westeros, we have not heard from you in a hot second right here. Jump in there, baby.
Thanks. I literally just want to actually. I'm gonna have to go soon, unfortunately, but I do want to respond to what Don Willi just said briefly. You had me at almost everything there, Don Willi, except for maybe your theory on the Night's King being Bran the Builder. Now, I don't want to say I'm going to steal your theory there, because I do address a bit of that stuff in an upcoming video that I've been slacking in terms of working on for the last 3 months. But I will say I do agree with you that the last hero and Bran the Builder are very likely the same character. Night's King, not so sure. In terms of the rest of the stuff you say, though, I do totally agree with you. I do think that the 13th Knights Commander in the books is very likely a Stark ancestor. As far as the TV series goes, however, just like you say, I think it's a bit inconsequential as to whether or not the Night's King is or isn't a Stark ancestor. It might be in the prequel series, but as far as Game of Thrones go, it really doesn't matter. So, again, yeah, I'm with you on that. And like you said, I think we have to remember they might very well switch things up in the show. They've already done that with major plot lines so far. I don't think I need to mention the Dornish plot as one of them. The 13th Lord Commander himself might be a character we see in the books, overtly or not, or beyond the legend we heard of him so far. And, maybe they try to create some kind of person for the show's sake to have this ultimate evil, like Don Willi was saying. But I think that the Night's King role, or the Night's King's role, or whatever you want to call him in the books versus the show, as well as his origins, are probably going to be very different between the two mediums, even if they even do address him in the books themselves. Like Don says, I think as far as the 13th Lord Commander goes in the books, I think his original purpose was just to be a myth in order to kind of explain why the Night's Watch members are celibate. Maybe George R. R. Martin would or has already added a purpose to that story in his books for the future, but I personally don't see much more to it than that in the books so far. But that's just my thought on that matter. I'm going to let you guys go now, unfortunately, because it's getting a bit late, and I do have to make one final phone call before I head to sleep.
No doubt.
That said, thanks so much for having me, Tony. It's always a pleasure. I always enjoy doing these videos with you. Same to you, Mo. Same to you, Don Willi. I think it's pretty awesome, actually, because I've actually done videos on all three of your channels at different times, so it's kind of cool having all of you together in this one discussion.
For sure, man. Take it easy.
No doubt, Charlie. Good looks for hanging out with us. Small Council for life. This is what we do. This is the fam. This is the way it is. And we'll be back next week, or maybe or another. We're gonna get Charlie back. Maybe some more Small Council members. We ain't dead. We still running this shit right here. You know what I mean? Hype Squad, Small Council. This is what we do.
Hey,
Thank
man,
you
I'd
for
be down for that. Thank you,
No
Tony.
doubt.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.
See y'all soon.
All right,
No
man.
doubt. No doubt. We gotta wrap this up soon ourselves and stuff like that, because I don't, we ain't gonna do these 3 hour things. We're gonna do these videos that hopefully people can don't get intimidated when they see the time on it and actually can come back and watch them and stuff like that. Mojini, go ahead, baby.
I'm gonna drop two little dimes that Don Willi was talking about. The Craster situation, how Craster's baby boys started becoming Night's King property. I think it's real simple. Whenever the Night's King, whenever Craster at some point had his first wife or whatever, I think the Night's King came to him in the middle of the night, opened his door, like with a gush of wind. Like imagine this, nighttime, gush of wind, cracks the door open, and Craster just had his first baby boy with his first wife. This is a young Craster. This ain't the old nasty Craster. This is a young Craster. Probably 18 years old, just graduated college Craster.
Chilling Craster.
Chilling Craster. You understand? He was a young Craster. Came in when he had his first son, all right, and just yoked him. The Night's King just went over to the wife and just yoked the baby and walked out. He didn't harm them. He didn't hurt them. He didn't do nothing to them. So after that point, every time they heard the gush of wind from a distance, Craster knew to put a baby boy, because by that point, anytime he had a girl baby, they never heard the gush of wind. So every time he heard a gush of wind, he knew that the Night's King wanted the boys, and that's why he started leaving them outside by the trees. And when he came the next morning, the boys would always be gone, and that's how he made the pact with the Night's King the first time.
I think it's a simple situation just like that. I think this when people say, "Oh, the Night's King wants a Night's Queen." Craster had a billion chicks there. If he really wanted one, he would have had it. It would have been done. I think that it was maybe a situation that Craster had a son that came out there, like you're saying, and maybe a White Walker just happened to be around, and he put the boy down, and he seen that White Walker pick that baby up and carry it away. And then next time he had a boy, he said, "Hey, let me see what's going on out here." And he put that baby down, and that White Walker came back and carried that baby away. And I think it was a situation like that, just like you said, dealing with when you deal with their whole pack. I don't think he met up with the dude. I don't think they had a drink. I don't think they discussed this at Applebee's. I don't think they had shared a 2 for $20. I don't think it was nothing going on like that. I think it was just a happenstance situation that he got into, and it just happened to go down like that. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it when I deal with the pack. I don't think Craster knew no secret language. He was able to communicate. It was nothing like that. It just happened to be the way it rolled down. And I think Craster didn't even know why they're taking him. I do believe it's a blood situation dealing with Craster, but I don't think he knew that. I don't think he knew he had any type of power or anything like that going on, anything like that. You know what I mean? So, I think we have talked a lot about the Night's King. I think that, we have done a lot here, but there's a lot more to talk about and a lot more to say. And as I said, I'm going to try to keep these live streams so people can watch them later on and stuff like that. So hopefully, Don Willi, are you willing to come back, let's say next week, and we continue this conversation?
Of course, and maybe I'll get into why Bran the Builder is the Night's King from the books.
There we go. We could definitely do that. Mojini, you with us next week as always? I need you.
I'm with it all day, man.
So next week we're gonna come back and do that. But before we go, you know what I want you to do? I want you to rep your hood. and that means put in the chat where you are from. Put your city in the chat. Mojini, you want to read out the hood repping going down right now? What?
Got you, man. I'll read some of these.
All right, Mojini's gonna read out the hood repping, so put it in the chat. Nightbot, we're gonna take care of Nightbot next time. You know what I mean? I promise you that we'll be all right. Hit it up, Mojini.
Everybody out here bugging, man.
There's none right now, brother, but they'll put them soon.
All right. I see Killmonger representing Detroit up in the building. Let me see.
Oh, we got Big E from the Bronx.
Big E
okay.
from the Bronx. Got
Super from Minnesota, Kingston from New York, Emma Weave from Scotland, I believe. Daryl from Fort Lauderdale, Jake from Vegas. We got Latoya from Birmingham, Alabama. Ian from Cali. Robert Price from Harlem, USA. Do the Harlem Shake for me one time, Robert.
One time. Shake it, baby.
Slope from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Sharif from Manchester. Hey, I hate Manchester United. I'm a Liverpool fan. Nancy from St. Louis. Gian from Brooklyn. Beth from Vacaville, California. I never heard of Vacaville. I like that. Mark Wokel from Netherlands. K Mocha from New Jersey. Kevin Dunn from Jersey. DJ from Ferguson. Brenda Starr from Cleveland. Peter Griffin from Chicago. And not the suburbs either. He says he's from the hood of Chicago.
No doubt. The hood, the real hood. You know what I mean? Saying Chi-Town, Chirac, baby. You ain't bullshit. You know what I mean?
Oh, wait, we still got a few more, man. We got Matthew Mossman from Sacktown. We got Dalbert Rose from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We got Gareth Baratheon from Ohio. We got Kimberly G from Tampa, Florida. We got Lady Wolverton from Nolens, you heard me. Shout out to New Orleans. I got a lot of family down there.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. To everybody out there chilling with my man Bernie, Roll Tide. You know what I mean? Lisa, thank you for that comment. I do appreciate that, girl. You know I do. My man Big Ryan, Sir Ryan Vine up in the building. Bella, my girl from London, repping Red Dead Redemption 2. I got it. It's hot. You know this. And we are.
Oh my God. I gotta buy that game. I gotta buy that game so bad, yo. I heard it's money.
It is. We talk about that next time. Hey, if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.